Well, hello there. Welcome to Tansson TV Plus. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Mom.
Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Yep, thank you for joining with us again.
We always love doing this, and Mom does another movie discussion.
It is another movie discussion. It's a made for TV movie that happened in 1986. We're back to the facts of life, and we're talking about the facts of life going down under.
Yes, and so this released on February 15th of 1987.
Yes, like I said, 87. Thank you for catching that, Brandon. All right, and let me give you a brief synopsis of what happened during this movie. That's why I have Brandon here to correct me. And so anyway, so the girls are invited to go to Australia by an Eastland sister school. They are supposed to make a presentation to this group of girls, but in the midst of everything, the girls get caught up with a jewel thief, and that is the generic premise for this movie.
Mom, thank you so much for that.
You're welcome, Brandon.
And overall, what do you think about the facts of life Down Under?
Well, okay, guys, I know we're not supposed to compare. I'm going to compare it to Paris. I like this one much, much better. It felt newer. I know this was 1987. It felt newer. In comparison to the Paris episode, or I should say more contemporary. But anyway, I thought they did a great job with this movie. It is not the best movie out there, I will say that. However, it is amusing. It's fun to watch. And so I do, it's a movie that, yes, I would recommend. And it's more adventurous, and the girls, I thought, did a good job for this movie. Your thoughts, Brandon?
What mother you said that this 39-year-old movie or almost 39-year-old movie feels modern, but no, I fully agree with you, Mom.
Yeah. Well, in comparison to the Paris movie, where you felt like you were in 1910, this one felt like it was at least in a contemporary time period.
But yes, and I think that there are so many different reasonings for this, of course, that we'll discuss here. But I would say that the first and foremost, because I know we're going to spend most of our time speaking about the story itself, I would say the coloring. I think so much improved.
It is, and you would never think that in that little time this would happen. But yes, the coloring was much more improved. It was sharper and clearer, and so yes.
Yes, and I will say that overall, that it feels a bit more concentrated. And again, I know we're going to speak up the storyline in a moment, but I think that they took like many of the criticisms that I'm sure that they knew that we were going to say, about 40 years later, and decided to
Uh-huh.
implement it into the second movie.
Yes, I'm sure they did.
Yes, but before we sort of go into the storyline, for those who are just now tuning in, we are discussing the series, The Facts of Life, over the next several weeks, and so we're starting off with these movie Mondays, discussing the two TV movies that The Facts of Life spawned.
Yes, yeah, we're doing that, and throughout the rest of the like Brandon said, the rest of the month, and then for February also, we're going to talk about some of the episodes that we thought were pivotal for the storylines for Facts of Life, and so please tune in so you can hear what we're going to chat about.
But yes, but in direct comparison to The Facts of Life Goes to Paris that we spoke about last week, that one had Mrs. Garrett as the motherly figure, and this one we now have moved forward, and we now have Beverly Ann Stickle.
Yep, we have Beverly Ann, and then Andy was in this one also.
Yes, and so I know we haven't got into them yet for discussing The Facts of Life, but we're excited to sort of include them in it. And Mom, what were your thoughts about their sort of inclusion in this and their storyline before we head into the girls?
Well, actually, I thought it was nice. Andy's storyline of Andy's character, I know that in later years is flushed out a little bit more, but Andy, I think, is has been a staple on the Facts of Life for quite a while before this time period, and so Andy being on there just kind of, to me, it was the same in regards to that they left his character be the same, and he was just really there with Beverly Ann. Beverly Ann did a really nice job too. They were able to kind of concentrate on the fact that she was not married, as she had she had a gentleman who was kind of speaking with her while she was on vacation.
Yes, and so I guess it was one for, I guess, college boyfriends or whatever, Roger, and his family. And so she'd originally decided, yeah, as per normal TV movies, of a, oh my gosh, well, you know what, this person I haven't seen in a super long time, I'm going to spend the rest of my life with them, devote everything to it. And then it's like, well, we have different lifestyles, different hemispheres. It's not going to work out.
Yeah, yes, and I don't think we ever heard from him again. I don't think.
Yes, but that being said, one of our major criticisms of the Facts Life Goes to Paris was that they split up the girls, and that a part of the whole, I guess, draw to the show, at least in my opinion, and I know you agreed to this as well, that was the camaraderie between the different girls. And this one, we did things a bit different than we did in Paris.
Yeah, we did, and well, I should say they did. What they did was in the Pierce movie, Blair and Joe, they were not together at all. I mean, they were together, but they really weren't. They went on different adventures. And in this movie, they're together all the time and work together in this particular adventure in which they were kind of trying to figure out the jewel thief issue. And so it was nice to see them work together in order to try to help solve this case and to figure out what was going on there. As for Tootie and Natalie, they worked together for a little bit. They did separate, and they came back a little later at the end. However, their separation didn't seem as long as as the separation that Blair and Joe had in the Paris movie. And in this case, with Tootie and the fact that Tootie and Natalie weren't together, they were together for portions of it, but the little bit that they weren't together, it didn't seem to make a difference with the movie, or I should say, it went with the movie more so, and it flowed much better than with the Paris movie.
Yes, and I will say at this point in time, the girls are, yeah, a bit older, whereas before, I mean, I think, with Natalie and Tuya being together, it just sort of felt natural, being that they were two of the younger people. But now that they're a bit older, of course, Natalie's out on her own adventure, whereas Tootie's sort of staying at the hotel and relaxing at their little resort area. So, I mean, I think it makes sense since they are older now.
Yes, and I think it's the fact also that they were able to keep in touch with each other also, in the sense that Joe was trying to reach Natalie, and but they were going through Tootie, but they were actually speaking with each other. Whereas in the Paris movie, when they were separated, they were really separated. They weren't calling each other.
Yeah, and they didn't even know, or I mean, and seemingly even care that Joe had just been missing for days.
Yeah, no one seemed to know. I mean, Blair knew, but no one seemed to know in the Paris movie that she was missing for quite a while.
Yes, but going back to this one specifically, um, before I ask you sort of a big question I was thinking about in terms of, I guess, the characters and how they were used, what were your thoughts about the overall sort of, I guess, heist, so to speak, and trying to figure out who's the bad guy out of the two people that claim they are potentially either a police officer or a jewel thief? We don't know which one's which.
Well, they kept it very lighthearted. So this one was actually fun. And, and so having the little mystery, you had to guess as the audience member, which one of the two who acted like they were police officers, which one really was the thief and which one was not. And so, to bring some levity to the show, I thought it was fine.
And I will say that for many of these TV movies, that sort of plot is usually very outlandish. But for the facts of life, this actually feels like one of the more tamer plots, I should say.
Yeah. Yes, I agree with you there.
But yeah, I definitely thought that that was a good use of the plot, and so I guess for the big one of the big questions I have for you is, do you believe that, because I do feel that this movie very much focuses on the Blair Joe dynamic in terms of trying to figure out this caper as a central part of the movie, is, do you think that they were the best choice for pairing in this movie, and why or why not?
I think they were the best choice for pairing in this movie. And I think it was just because it was just nice to watch them work together. They weren't fighting or anything. It was just nice to see them work together. But yet at the same time, their personalities just stood out.
I absolutely agree. And I was thinking about this, as this question as we were speaking, because yeah, I was thinking about the normal pairings, like how we mentioned, like the 2D Natalie, yeah, dynamic, or some of the others. But whereas I feel for that one, while that would have been interesting for them to see, is that we see quite a lot of them on the show, sort of working together in unison. But I think it's kind of a little bit more, I guess, fun and high stakes, so to speak, when it's Joe and Blair pairing. And not to say that the show doesn't focus on the both of them, um, in the series, but I don't know if they're really given as much devoted attention as they are in this movie.
Yeah. Actually, I would agree with you there also. And one of the things I was trying to think about when we were watching the movie was, does this relate it all back to The Facts of Life itself, the TV show? And in essence, no, with the one exception here. And it has to do with not necessarily Pippa, but the fact that there's a sister school. Because that comes up again when Pippa comes to to the town, to Peekskill, and I'm not saying it's the same school that they're talking about, but they relate to a school in Australia, and I think it was the same town or the same school, or at least it sounded very similar. But I think overall, just knowing that there was a sister school in Australia is the important thing here, and that's maybe that was their inspiration for bringing in the character of Pippa. I don't know. I really don't know what that was, but that is the only relationship that I could see for the movie and with the Facts of Life TV show. What about you, Brandon? Did you see anything?
I mean, for me, I think similar to what I said in the Paris movie, but this one a little bit more so, is that they make a lot of the same references throughout the series, and we'll discuss this a little bit later in the series, the fact for the Facts of Life. But in regards to some of the references, like Mel Gibson, for instance.
Yes, some of the same jokes I will say that they used in the series itself. Brandon and I caught that as we were watching. For example, Blair suitcases. They have made comments and they talk about Blair suitcases several times in the series. They talked about it in Paris. They talked about it in Australia. Same joke about the fact that she shares the seat with suitcases or gets an extra pays for an extra seat for suitcases, and then it comes up again in the TV show. So the writers know that they are kind of incorporating some of that into the series itself.
Yes, and I feel that for this one, and this sounds weird to say because I know both of these movies had them going to another country and a new culture and environment. Whereas I feel the first one was, I'm not going to say off from the series, but it definitely felt like its own thing in a sense, at least for me. And a part of that goes to the dateness and that it didn't really have the characters together. Whereas I feel for this one I feel is more feels more natural as a part of the Facts of Life.
Yep, actually, I agree with that too, Brandon. I completely agree with that.
Yeah, I definitely feel that with the dynamic of everyone, that I think the Facts of Life has always done a good job of being able to progress the plot without necessarily in building on previous experiences, without verbatim saying, "Oh, hey, remember when we did that one thing with that one person?" But rather, you can see that the characters have grown from that, and I'm not going to necessarily say that I can see, "Oh, well, they got that one skill they learned in this movie," because I don't really see that, for instance, but I do see them, within that same growth trajectory that they have been around the season 8 time.
Yeah, actually, I agree with you, Brandon. It's very nicely stated.
Thank you. And one thing I will say before I let you give the rating, Mom, is that for this movie, unlike the Paris one, where you had the extra character brought in as the writer, is that the cast of this was truly just the main cast.
Yep, that is true. That is true. And I will say this in rating this particular one, Brandon. Um, I actually, and as you guys know, I like to rate things 1 to 5, 5 being the highest. I gave this one a 3. It is not the best movie out there. It's not the worst movie out there either, but it's pleasant. You could watch it and be fine. So for me, it's just kind of middle of the road. So I gave it a 3.
I'll definitely have to agree with that. I did enjoy the movie, and I would rewatch it, but in the same regard, TV movies maybe aren't my, I guess, the strongest pull towards them. I don't really go out seeking movies and not necessarily TV movies, but I would say that's pretty not just. I'd say it's a step above tolerable. I mean, I think it's enjoyable.
Okay, sounds good. And do we have any connections with this movie, Brandon?
Yes, we did actually.
Okay, what are your connections?
So the connection is actually because this is the first time we've discussed an episode with her is with Beverly Ann, of course Leachman, and of course she was on the Mary Tyler Moore Show.
Oh yeah, and that is true. She was on the Mary Tyler Moore Show.
Yes, would you say that she has a similar personality between them, or a little bit different?
I would have to watch more of the Mary Tyler Moore Show to be able to answer that one.
Yeah, I know that you've only seen just a handful of episodes, if even.
Yes, just a handful. I think you watched the first whole season.
Yes, I definitely watched the whole first season, the beginning of the second one. I would say that whereas her character Mary Tyler Moore Phyllis, that she was very more closed off. Whereas Beverly Ann, I think they would like for her, the characters would like for her to be more closed off.
Yeah. Well, that is fun. I would say anything else that you want to discuss about this particular episode of The Facts of Life Goes Down Under.
No, I mean I really enjoyed, like I said, being able to explore this movie for the first time. I haven't seen it. An interesting tidbit I did see though, and looking at the credits, is whereas the first movie was filmed or produced by Embassy Television that produced the series, this one is actually produced by Crawford Productions, which was not otherwise associated with the Facts of Life and is actually an Australian media company.
Oh, I didn't know that, so that's interesting to hear.
So I definitely am curious about sort of how that came about, but nevertheless, I'm glad that like I said, we're able to experience this, and that since the series did have TV and movies, or two of them, I am glad that we were able to have one with Mrs. Garrett and another with Beverly Ann.
I just same here, Brandon. Say we thank everybody for kind of following along with us, and we thank you for watching today.
And we look forward to seeing you next time.
All right, have a great day, everybody.